the call from the deep forest. "Man, have you come home yet? My name is Azman Iskandar. I'm 32 years old, and I'm writing these words under the flickering light of a flashlight in my makeshift tent, deep in the abandoned rubber plantation in Perak, Malaysia. I don't know if anyone will ever read this, or if it'll just get swept away by the forest winds like some invisible whisper, but I have to record it, because what's happening to me here, it's making me question my own reality. I'm not a superstitious guy, even though I grew up in a coastal village in Selangor, where folks would gather around campfires telling ghost stories about lost souls. I've always tried to live practically, work hard, pay off debts, and send money home to my aging mother. But now, in this forest, everything is shifting in a slow, haunting way, like mist seeping through the cracks in the leaves. I'll start from the beginning, like it's a real story, because maybe putting it down on paper will help me hold on to my sanity before that call drags me away for good. Let's go back 2 months ago, when I decided to leave Kuala Lumpur. But the pay was low, and debts piled up from loans I took to treat my mother's illness. But I got tangled in gambling, thinking luck would turn things around, only for it to double my troubles. An old friend working in Perak hooked me up with a temporary gig, tapping rubber in an old plantation, tucked deep in the forest, over 20 kilometers from the nearest settlement. It's remote, but the pay is good, and not many compete for it, he said. I figured this was my chance to start fresh, earn cash to send home to mum, clear the debts. The road to the plantation was the first challenge. My beat-up motorcycle rattled along the winding red dirt path, full of potholes and tree roots jutting out like hands from the earth. This area was booming in the 1990s, when rubber was Malaysia's white gold. Thousands of workers flocked here, tapping latex, transporting it, and building little villages. But then accidents started piling up. Falls from ladders, deadly snake bites, or people just vanishing without a trace. The government blamed overexploitation and depleted soil, but locals whispered about the Penunggu Rimba, the forest guardian, an ancient spirit protecting nature, punishing intruders. The plantation was abandoned, the jungle reclaimed it, and now only small groups of temporary workers like us come to tap sporadically, under loose management from a small company. They greeted me with tired smiles. "New here. Watch out at night. The forest likes to talk." Work starts from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m., the earliest shift, when the latex flows best. Locals call it the hour when the forest opens its mouth, meaning when the woods wake up and things you shouldn't hear start whispering. The next morning, I met Mac, Tim, an elderly woman living on the forest's edge in a rickety wooden shack built from leftover plantation planks. Her skin is wrinkled like dried rubber bark, her eyes cloudy but sharp, like they can pierce right through you. "You look like you're carrying a heavy load." I nodded, mentioning my debts and my mum back in Selangor. She shook her head, her voice raspy. "This forest isn't for the weak-hearted." She didn't smile, just stared deeper. "The Penunggu isn't a ghost, child. It's the soul of the forest, keeping balance. It uses your most cherished memories to lure you. It calls your real name only when you're burdened with guilt or regret. Don't reply, or you'll lose your soul." Rahim was a good man, but haunted by the death of his son in a car accident 5 years back. One night during his shift, he heard his boy's voice calling, "Ayah, have you come home yet?" The childish tone, exact as the lost child. Rahim bolted deeper into the forest, calling back, and no one saw him return. The next morning, they found his shoes neatly placed under an ancient rubber tree. The ground around showing no footprints leading away, only tracks heading deeper into the woods, like he'd been dragged. Police ruled it a disappearance from getting lost, but Mac Timmer shook her head. The forest claims back what's taken. Rahim was weak-hearted, so he was chosen. I dismissed it as a tall tale to scare newbies, but her words lingered, especially when I thought of Mom. She's called me man since I was little, her voice warm but worried. Man, have you come home yet? That's what she asks every phone call, because I promised to visit but always delay for work, for debts. My first night on the job, I woke at 12:30, grabbed coffee from Mac Timmer, and headed into the forest with my tapping knife, headlamp, and plastic bucket. My headlamp's beam bent around the trunks, casting twisted shadows like lurking figures. Sounds here are odd night birds, insects chirping at first, but gradually swallowed by the forest, leaving a heavy silence broken only by occasional lone calls, distant and eerie. I started tapping at the first row of trees. The knife sliced through the bark, a shallow cut. The work is monotonous, but requires focus too deep, and you kill the tree. Too shallow, no flow. I worked alone, as areas are divided to avoid disputes. Co-workers were a few hundred meters away, their laughter faint. That night was normal, except I kept thinking of Mom. She's alone in our wooden seaside house, health fading, and on calls, her voice trembles. Man, what have you eaten? I'm waiting for you. Guilt weighed on my chest like a stone. To distract, I hummed old Malay folk songs, but my voice got swallowed by the woods, echoing only in my head. Back at the tent by 4 a.m., I was exhausted, lying on my hammock staring at the canvas roof. Sleep was fitful, dreaming of Mum at the door, calling me during a sea storm. Morning came late. I dragged myself to Mac Timmer for bread. How was last night, child? She asked. I grinned. Fine, auntie, no spirits at all. She nodded, but her eyes were worried. The forest isn't hasty. It waits for when you're most vulnerable. The second night, things were still okay, but I noticed oddities. Fog thicker, latex smell mixed with something musty like rotting wood. As I moved to the third row, my headlamp dimmed suddenly, though I'd replaced the batteries that afternoon. The light turned hazy, trees seeming taller, leaves rustling like whispers. I heard soft footsteps behind me, but turning showed only swirling mist. Just the wind, I told myself. Finished early, back to the tent. I called Mum, her voice weak. Man, are you okay? I miss you so much. I promised to visit, knowing it was a lie. Debts held me here. The third night, the haunting truly began. Around 2 a.m., fog so dense I groped for trees, tapping the fifth row, knife scraping with familiar scratches. Suddenly, from afar, man, have you come home yet? The voice hit like ice, exactly Mum's, trembling with concern, like her phone calls. I froze, headlamp sweeping the woods. Nothing. Forest silent, only latex dripping. Thought it was a mishearing, wind, or a prank, but it repeated, fainter. Man, have you come home yet? Heart pounding, cold sweat despite the chill. I yelled, who's there? Stop messing around. No response, kept working, hands shaking, cuts uneven. Bucket half full that night. Back at camp, I tossed and turned. Called Mom immediately. She was fine, asleep at home. Hadn't called. I miss you, but not at midnight, she said. Relieved, I chalked it to fatigue-induced hallucination. But deep down, Mac Timmer's words echoed. The Penunggu uses your dearest memories. Shook my head. No belief. I'm rational, right. Decided to pull extra shifts to distract, but guilt over Mom grew. Recalled my last visit, 6 months ago. Her hugging me, tears, trembling hands stroking my hair. Don't go again. Stay with Mom. I'm old now, but I had to, for debts. Her voice haunted days, and nights brought the real calls. Fourth night, the call closer. 2:30 a.m., shifting rows. It came from behind. Man, have you come home yet? Spun around, beam hitting trees, just missed. Voice precise, Mom's, intonation, emphasis on home. Even her weary sigh, shaking, wondered if someone knew my name and her voice. Koa Kuskumar, the Indian. Some Indonesians didn't know my family. Ignored it, kept tapping, but headlamp faded, light yellowing on old scars. Strangely, New taps on trees from yesterday's someone working here, luring me deeper without noticing. Ran to Kumar nearby. He was smoking, eyed me oddly. What's up, Azman? Look like you've seen a ghost. Told him. He laughed. Forest does that. I heard my wife once, ignored it, passed. Don't overthink, tires the mind. But he mentioned Rahim. He heard his kid, ran in, gone. Don't be like him. Nodded, but doubt filled me. Back to tent, first journal entry. Call sounded real, but impossible. Mom's far, maybe wind. Tried sleeping, dreams of twisting trees pulling me. Fifth night, tension skyrocketed. Mist like a wall, latex pungency, mixed with faint rot from depths. Tapping, hands trembling, call right in ear. Man, have you come home yet? Repeated thrice. Closing in, felt cold breath on neck, scalp prickling, screamed, stop. Who's pranking me? Forest dead silent, sounds devoured. Ran 2 co-workers, far off, headlamp died. In pitch black, heard footsteps, not mine, limping, like mum's joint pain. Spare light on, spotted odd prints in mud barefoot, small like an old woman's, leading deeper, heart stopped. Couldn't be mum, hundreds of km away, no walking here. Packed up early, ran to tent. Mac Timmer sat outside, waiting. You heard it, didn't you? Nodded, spilled everything. She sighed. Penunggu chose you for guilt. Left your mum, right. Uses that to lure. Calls real name only. No nicknames. Doesn't attack, immediately waits for you to step deeper. Don't reply, child. She shared Malay folklore. Penunggu, formless spirit guarding forest. Unseen by eyes. Hunts with memories. Striking deepest pains. Forest rule. No answering calls at night. Replying accepts invitation to its world. Forest isn't evil, just reclaims balance. Humans take too much, so it takes souls. Sleepless that night. Phone research. Weak signal. Old articles on Perak forest accidents. Dozens vanished over years, always preceded by calls, voices of lost or distant loved ones. Police say lost or animals, but locals know better. Questioned reality. Am I crazy, or is the forest alive? Sixth night. Obsession peaked. Stuck close to Kumar, but work split us. 3 a.m. Call not just repeating but detailed. Man, have you come home yet? I'm waiting forever. So called mom's voice. Pained, like her alone by the sea. Cried, slumped on wet ground, knife dropping. Memories flooded, her cooking alone, waiting meals, me always busy with work. Debts, wanted to reply, I'm home, mom. But recalled Mac, Timmer bowed head, gritted teeth, kept tapping. Headlamp weak, new scars everywhere, like someone tapping for me, drawing me in. Forest sounds gone, call echoing in mind. No spatial reflection from my thoughts. Doubted, psychological hallucination, or real. Penunggu. Ran back, saw Mac Timmer again. She gave a small pouch of forest leaves. Keep it, don't reply. Go home tomorrow. Forest picked you, took it, heart chaotic. Called mum, her tired man. Dreamed you lost in forest. Come home. Her words cut like knives. Seventh night at last. Exhausted eyes sunken, limbs weak. Mist thickest, rot stench overwhelming, like death from woods. Started shift, hands shaking with knife. Call early, 1:30. Man, have you come home yet? Close, cold breath on neck. Ignored, but relentless, hitting guilt core. Man, I'm so cold. Come home, don't leave me alone. Each word, needle in heart. Couldn't take it. In weakness, whispered, I'm home, mom. Forest, absolute silence. No more call. No wind, no insects. Darkness enveloped. Then, invisible pull. Feet moving uncontrolled deeper. Headlamp, out. Mist, swallowing all. Trees twisted. Leaves like grabbing hands. Tried turning, yelling for help. Voice devoured. My prints in mud lead only deeper. No return. Next morning, they found my shoes under the ancient rubber tree, neatly placed. Ground showed no outgoing prints, only those heading into the forest, fading in mist. I don't know what happened after, as I'm writing this, or am I dreaming? The call echoes closer in my head. If you read this, stay out of the forest at night. Don't answer. The forest is opening its mouth, and it knows your name. It knows your guilt, and it won't stop.